Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike, and today we're going to be continuing my live show, Your Favorite Movie, with a very special guest today. One of my biggest inspirations here on YouTube. We got Mr. Cody Leach. How's it going,
What's
my man?
happening? Just another day, man. Starting a new
Another
year,
day.
and it's like January again.
Yep, I feel that.
Mhm.
All right, so to kick things off, what is your favorite movie, good sir?
Favorite movie of all time is Die Hard. It's not what people would assume because I'm so associated with the horror genre, but something
Mhm.
about that movie is just like perfection to me. So that one's always been my favorite.
Yep. I mean, I'm right up there with you. One of my absolute favorites. What is your earliest memory of seeing this movie?
I was really late to the party. I think I didn't actually watch it until about the time of the fourth film was coming out.
Oh wow.
So I was at least in my early 20s or something like that. And so me and my dad were going to go see the fourth one. I was like, well, I guess I better do my research and do some homework and watch the other ones. And I watched through the first three. We went and saw the fourth one. And with the exception of two, which I only liked, I loved all four of them.
Mhm.
And then it just started to be a movie that I just wanted to keep rewatching. It was like intoxicating. I was like, I want to watch Die Hard again. Then I'd go watch it. And then it became a Christmas staple, of course, where every single Christmas day we would watch it. And just over time, it's become one of those movies that, we all have our favorites that sometimes we don't need to rewatch them so often. Like every couple of years is enough. And, sometimes even over time, you start to fall out of love with them a little bit. And for whatever reason, with Die Hard, I've rewatched it so many times, and I've never lost any bit of enjoyment. So all the way back, yeah, at least 18 or 19 years ago is when I saw it for the first time. When I should have watched it as a kid.
Yeah. I mean, I saw this. I guess I would have been younger than you at this point, but
Mhm,
I was around when COVID started. I want to say I watched it for the first time. So
mhm,
I was like 13 or something like that when I first saw it. I thought it was great. For some reason though, like you said, it was really good when you first watched it, and then the more you watch it, it just like becomes that much of a staple in your head.
mhm,
I remember there was like a point in it where I just ended up watching it like 4 or 5 times in a week. It's just like it's that rewatchable of a movie though.
mhm.
Um,
I had to
so
fact
I
check myself. So it was 2007 when I first watched it.
2007.
Yeah, so I was
Gotcha.
17.
Gotcha. Um, all right. So a couple comments here. We got my buddy Luke Ponto. What is up?
Hello.
Doing pretty well, man. And then my buddy Jack, hey guys, hope you're doing well. It's 1 a.m. where I am, so I'm going to bed. But have a great stream. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. So what about Die Hard sticks out to you as your all-time favorite?
I grew up watching and loving action movies. I mean, Terminator 2 is probably my number two movie of all time. And so, like, anything that Arnold Schwarzenegger did was the best stuff ever when I was growing up. But a lot of his movies, and especially movies of the 80s, with the exception of Die Hard, it was all very over the top. It's, guys that are like bodybuilders and having gigantic Gatling guns. And it was always just to be over the top and macho. And one of
Right.
the things that
Yeah.
I love about Die Hard, and one of the reasons why it stood out so much when it was released, is that it's a action movie that just focuses on the everyday guy. Like there's nothing about Bruce Willis when you first see him, at least back in the day. Now we associate him with it, but back in the day, you look at Bruce Willis, you don't think action star. You're like the guy from
Mhm.
Moonlighting. What is this? And so that's a large part of it, is being able to have action that's pretty raw and visceral without having to over the top it. And also just the character of John McClane is kind of like my spirit animal, just like the way that he talks
Yeah.
and all the different little catchphrases that he has, and his wit. I just absolutely love that. And then you pair it with Hans Gruber, who's like one of the most charming evil villains of all time. So you just character wise, that's the biggest thing that stands out to me. But other than that, it's just a movie that I don't. It's perfectly paced to me, which is one of the reasons why every time I rewatch it, I'm never bored with it. I never start to like fall out of love. Like, I've seen this 1,000 times. This isn't hitting this time. every time you just go to some new beat, whether it's the terrorists first getting there, or him going in the elevator, and then you get the yippee-ki-yay moment, and then he's blowing up the bottom floor and going back and forth with the FBI guys, and then the big finale. It's just, like I said earlier, it's just like it's perfections. But the most standout thing to me is just the characters in it. That's what I love about it the most.
Oh yeah. Love those characters a ton, of
Mhm.
course. Got if my mouse wants to work.
Gotta
We
love
got
it.
my buddy Alex in here. What's up, guys? Cody's by far my favorite movie reviewer.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Um, so does this movie reflect like a moment of time in your life to you? Like, does it remind you of like a specific time of your life at all?
Not necessarily, but there is something of a tradition quality to it where you watch it every single Christmas day. And I have this with this movie, and I have it with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles for Thanksgiving time, where, you know, I talk about it a lot in my videos, how close I've always been with my father. You know, he was a single parent. He's the reason why I love movies the way that I do, and music and everything. So if anything, it just connects me with him in some weird way where, you know, and he's still alive. So it's not like whenever he
Mm,
passes away, it's going to be tenfold. But yeah, those two movies, whether it be Thanksgiving Day or Christmas Day, it feels like my dad's watching it and I'm watching it, even if we're not together. And sometimes we'll text each other a picture of like where we're at in the movie, and sometimes we're like within minutes of each other. So not a specific moment, but it does always make me think about family and holidays and things like that.
right, gotcha. Okay. Um, so if they were to make another sequel, would you want to watch it, or do you think it would just line up in the same way as Good Day to Die Hard?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think they can because of
Right.
Bruce Willis. But if we're going to take that out of it, there were two ideas that I heard proposed within the last 10 years. The first one was that it was going to be like a Nakatomi reunion, like a Nakatomi anniversary thing, and John McClane was going to be there, obviously, like, I don't know, getting the
Hmm.
fucking key to the city or something like that. And then something was going to happen. And not the most original idea in the world, but then when you contrast it with the idea that they quickly replaced it with, which was this Die Hard Year One idea that was getting traction for like about a year and a half, where it was supposed to be Len Wiseman, who's the guy who directed the first two Underworld movies. He directed the
Hmm.
remake to Total Recall. It was going to be a movie where John McClane, as we know him now, old Bruce Willis, is going to be entangled in something, and then it's going to flash back to when he was younger, and it was going to have to do with him meeting Holly and something. And I despised that idea because to me it so misunderstands the greatness of the first movie. Like, if you have this wild, crazy terrorist adventure before Nakatomi, Nakatomi ceases to be as wild of an event. And
Yeah.
it's a ridiculous idea. So the
Yeah.
only idea that I ever would have liked is something akin to that first one, where it kind of brings things full circle somehow. It has a finality to it. It doesn't just feel like another Die Hard movie. It feels like we're putting an exclamation point on the franchise. Don't
Hmm.
necessarily know if the Nakatomi idea, that the reunion idea, was the best version of that, but that's the only version that to me would have felt like worth exploring. Anything else just felt like they're just trying to wring something else out of Die Hard. And then now with Bruce Willis, unfortunately, with what he's going through, I'm pretty positive that it's either going to be rebooted and anger everybody, or they're going to wait quite a while before they touch it, which is what I'd prefer.
Yeah. That, I mean, if they did reboot it just to make everyone mad, it's Disney. It would probably end up happening, but you
Hmm.
never know. Yeah. So is there a message or theme of this movie that resonates with you deeply?
Yeah, like it's one of the main arguments I always make for the Die Hard is not a Christmas movie crowd, and it has this theme of the typical holiday theme of like getting home for the holidays, you know, getting the family back together, and so that's something that always resonates with me. You know, holidays are family time, even if there's terrorists running around.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that away from the December vibe and everything. So that's a big one for me. Obviously, it's part of the background. It's not the point of the movie necessarily, but there's enough of it there where that is something that I like a lot.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, if there is anything in this movie that you could change, what would it be?
Huh. Well, there's really only two things, if you really want to get technical and get nitpicky, that can be considered flaws with this movie in my mind. One of
Mhm.
them has been a long debated thing where some people have an explanation for it. Some people think that it was a huge production mishap, and that's the changing of the shirts. So he has a white tank top, and then after he gets done crawling through the vents, it's brown. To me, it's always been
Mhm.
obvious it's just dirty from what he just did. But there's enough people that don't get that I think they could have used a different shot or something to convey that a little better, just to get rid of that annoyance for some people. The other one, which a lot of people don't even know, is in the first act of the film. Whenever the terrorists first arrive at Nakatomi, they arrive in that ambulance, or in that semi that's got the ambulance in the back. But when it
Mhm.
opens up, there's no ambulance. It's just all the characters pouring out. And then later on in the third act of the film, there's an ambulance in it. And there's a story that you could find footage. I think it was in that Netflix documentary, actually, movies that we love or movies that move us or something like that,
Mhm.
where everybody was watching the first test screening of it, and they were like, oh, like freaking out, like, what are we going to do about this? And John McTiernan was like, if anybody says they don't like the movie because of that damn ambulance, I don't even care. We're not doing anything. Just leave it.
Yeah.
Nobody's even going to notice. And I think 99% of people that watch that movie never notice. But yeah, if that's the only two things we got to do to get it to be complete perfection, then we'll just do that.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Gotcha.
no,
All
I don't
right.
want to change anything.
All right. We got Laren in here, one of my good friends on here. What's up, man? Okay. Sorry about that. So which character's journey do you find the most compelling out of the movie?
Well, I mean, if we're going to take the obvious one out, which is John McClane, I mean, that he's the main character. The most of the movie's
Mhm.
focused on him. So, of course, that's a very compelling journey. Him having to rise to the occasion and literally put his life on the line multiple times to save people and to get back with his wife, and it all works out. The side character that I think is the most compelling is Powell, the cop that he is talking with the entire time. Then you get that story about halfway through the film about why he's just out doing patrol and not doing anything bigger, and it's because he when he was on patrol before, he accidentally shot a kid
Right.
and what looked like somebody with a gun, and so he's like, oh, I vowed to never raise my weapon again. And then you get that great scene at the very end of the movie where the one terrorist comes back, who was hanging by
Mhm.
his throat, and gets ready to shoot John and Holly, and then all you see is the gun barrel taking the guy
Mhm.
out, and then it fades in or gets rid of the blur, and it's Powell sitting there. So he pulled his gun again to save somebody and kind of redeemed himself. So I think that's a
Yeah.
great character arc for him. It's really not like huge. It's not they don't beat you over the head with it or anything. It's something that it could easily just been like a line of dialogue to give more context to him, but then they pay it off at the end.
Yeah. So if you could be a role in this movie, who would you play?
Oh man, that's a good one. Um I mean, I wouldn't want to take Bruce Willis's spot. Of course, John McClane would
Mhm.
be the cool role to play. I think I could have fun playing that guy Ellis, the guy who's like the cokehead that gets shot because he's cocky. I think that
Yeah.
would be a fun role to play and have just kind of play around with how over the top you could be without doing too much. Beyond that, I mean, one of the terrorists, of course, would be cool, but I don't know if I would fit because I don't have like an accent or anything.
Mhm.
I have to think about that. One of the FBI guys would be fun. Johnson and Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those three. One of those three would be fun.
Yeah. My go-to answer for that would probably be like Argyle.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be awesome. So what about this do you think like might have influenced like pop culture nowadays?
Oh man. Well, it definitely changed the landscape for action movies because, like I said, back in the 80s, for the most part, it was all like, who are the biggest guys you can get? You don't even have to be an actor. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, for as awesome as he ended up being, like all signs were that guy should never been anywhere near a Hollywood production. Like I think Bill Burr's got a joke where he's like, that guy should have been unloading trucks in Transylvania. But he's gigantic, so they got roles, and he really dedicated, got better. Then you have Stallone, and then you had like a bunch of other random guys, Jesse Ventura. It was all about who's the biggest. And then John
Mhm.
McClane comes around and then suddenly changed the landscape for the 90s and onward, where we're getting all these great action movies for just great characters that don't necessarily have to go to the gym for 6 months and put on 50 pounds of muscle. I mean, you got Keanu Reeves, who's kind of almost reinvented the action genre at least a couple of times. He had Speed and Point Break, and then of course The Matrix was huge, and then he come back around with John Wick. And even things like the Bourne movies with Matt Damon. I remember that was like a big joke before that movie came out. It's like, really, the Ben Affleck's friend's gonna kick ass? That's weird. And then nobody would say anything after seeing that first movie. So I think John McClane is the one, Die Hard is the one that paved the way for a lot of that, changing, broadening our horizons of what an action hero can be besides just the giant guy with muscles.
Yeah, that is a great point. It's a shame we couldn't have gotten a good Die Hard 6 and that the franchises ended on a terrible note. They waited too long. Agreed, for sure. Did you play the Die Hard PC game? I played it a lot back in the day.
I did not.
I didn't even know that there was a PC game.
I remember seeing I think it was in PlayStation 1. I remember seeing the cover walking through like Best Buy, but I wasn't a fan of the movie at that point, so I never picked it up to check it out. So, like I said, I wish I would have got on the train a little bit earlier.
Okay, really, I don't have that many more questions. So, anyways, just going over like other things, I guess, about this. Like, what are some of your other favorite movies that have like meant a lot for you in the past, or like nowadays, especially?
Well, I mentioned Terminator 2. That one's a really big one for me that I watched as a kid constantly. The first Back to the Future has always been a favorite of mine, and that one's got a really funny story that always reminds me of my childhood. So I don't know if you've seen a Goofy movie, but that was a huge movie for me whenever I was a kid, and me and my cousin were like, rivals. We'd butt heads over things, and we were doing that thing where kids like to play, and I'm this character, and I always wanted to be Powerline. And so one day I always had to fight him. I'm like, I'm Powerline, not you. And then one day I walked into the bedroom at my grandma's house where we were staying, and he was jumping on the bed singing Johnny Be Good. And I didn't know what he was doing. I was just like, are you doing Powerline? That's me. And he's like, no, it's from Back to the Future. And this is how like psycho I was about it. I was probably like 5 or 6. And I actually went home and found a VHS copy of Back to the Future and watched the whole movie just to check my cousin's bullshit. I was like, we're going to see if this song's in this movie. Otherwise, I'm going to tear you up tomorrow. And then lo and behold, then it becomes one of my favorite movies of all time. And then, of course, you go into the horror side. You got The Thing. You got Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 3. The Lost Boys is huge for me. A lot of them are just movies, most of my favorite movies of all time, with the exception of Die Hard, oddly enough, at number 1. Are movies that just brought me a lot of comfort as a kid. I didn't have like a horrible childhood, but I certainly had things going on where movies and video games especially were really nice distractions. And so I think I latched into movies much more as a kid than anybody else that was my age. And I would actually get like, people would be annoyed at how much I wanted to talk about movies because I had such a strong connection with them where it was just like passable entertainment to everybody else. So I always tell people, if you knew me as a kid, it's no surprise what I ended up doing as an adult.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of the same way, honestly. A lot of people like, around me are just like, hey, it's the movie guy, the guy who can quote everything ever. And it's just like, okay, yeah, that's me. But I also have like, a bigger personality than that, but whatever. So like, people are always saying that, and it's just like, what are you going to do when you're older? And I was like, well, I mean, I'm either trying to go to film school or try to be like a biomedical engineer or something like that. It's just like, I don't know. It's just like, oh, you're not trying to be like a movie reviewer? Yeah, exactly. You're not like trying to be a movie critic or something like that. It's like, no, that's like a side gig, but yeah, I definitely don't want to, try and put my whole life into like, YouTube and just reviewing, which I mean, I do respect, like you and Sean, but I just don't think I'd ever make it that big, honestly.
Nobody does until they get there, man.
Right, yeah.
Even just going full time. If you asked me 2 months before I went full time, if I ever would, I'd be like, no, it's never going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's again, like you and like Sean, you guys are like my like biggest inspirations here on YouTube. It's like you guys like are what kind of like made me want to start up a channel. And like again, um, just to like preface again, you know, just like a lot of my taste is actually like revolved around like your reviews and whatnot. Just like you recommend something highly and I check it out and I end up loving it. It's just like
That's
Frailty,
awesome.
Stir of Echoes, like
Yeah.
oh man, yes, those movies are some of my all-time favorites, and it's just because like you reviewed them, and I'm like, okay, maybe I should check those out now.
That's
So
my favorite
I
thing about doing
yeah,
what I do. It's you know, people would expect to be all these other things, and it's really just when I hear somebody say, "Hey, you pointed out this movie I've never heard of, probably never would have heard of it, and I love it." And that's
hmm
the most gratifying thing in the world to me. So that's cool.
yeah. So those, like I said, those are some of my favorites. I still need to watch Warrior, which I know you and Sean like praise highly, but
Hmm.
I still need to get around to it for sure. Um, and then in terms of like video games as well, I never even played like the Resident Evil games until I saw like your ranking of it a while ago. I was like, damn, I should really play Resident Evil 4. And it's like my all-time favorite game
You're
now,
welcome.
just because of that. Yeah. Oh my god, that game is so addicting. I played um when it was ported over to my Switch, that was the first time I played it. No, when it was ported over to the Switch. That's the
Hmm.
first time, you know, and then I got an Oculus. I didn't beat it on the Switch, but then I played it on the Oculus, and then for whatever reason, I found it like so much easier to play it on there.
Really
And
interesting.
then yeah, it was weird. I just found it like maybe a little bit more engaging. And then since I
Hmm.
knew what to do beyond that, I went back to the Switch and beat it there. Just like yeah, I'm pretty sure this is like my favorite game of all time now.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
gotta love
So,
it.
yeah, going back to like, you know, underrated movies, is there like any other movies that you would like recommend to somebody who hasn't, you know, seen like an underrated sort of movie that, you know, some people haven't seen?
Oh man, I mean, there's a ton of them. You named a couple of them. Stir of Echoes
Mm,
and Frailty are two big horror ones for me. I always recommend this movie Session 9, which is a TV movie, so keep that in mind because there's just
mhm,
moments where you could tell it's a TV movie, but it's very atmospheric and creepy. It's about a group of guys who are as an asbestos cleanup crew cleaning up this abandoned asylum before they're going to wreck it, and shit happens. And then you have like on the more like action drama side, there's a boxing movie that I've always loved called Gladiator. When I recommend
mhm,
it, people always assume the Russell Crowe one, but it's a movie from 1992. It's got Cuba Gooding Jr. in it, and it's about this kid who moves to like inner city Chicago and needs some money for his dad. His dad's got a bunch of gambling debt, and so he starts doing this underground fighting, and him and Cuba Gooding Jr. are rival fighters that end up really liking each other. And then the guy that's running it is evil as hell. It's Brian Dennehy, so he's the dad from Tommy
mhm,
Boy. It's a very cool movie. It's 90s as hell, but I've always loved it. You've got Trick or Treat's always one that I throw out. Like it feels like it's almost getting to like cult classic status now, where a lot of people know about it, the heavy metal
mhm,
horror movie, but for the longest time nobody did. But there's just been a lot of t-shirt designs and everything lately that's kind of pushed it more up into pop culture consciousness. Actually, Alex has got a good one there. A Simple Plan, very underrated. That's one of Sam Raimi's movies that not a lot of people talk about, where two
mhm,
brothers find abandoned airplane with drugs and
mhm.
money in it. They take the drugs, or excuse me, they take the money and then get paranoid about who might be coming for it. Let's see. Should have prepared for this one.
Yeah, this is one I've been meaning to watch for a long time for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a very,
Um,
very good one. I think when I ranked
yeah,
Sam Raimi's films, it was at least in my top 4, top 5. It's very good.
gotcha.
You've got Rudderless is the last one I'll give you, which I always
Oh,
bring up too, where it's a movie that kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody really saw it. Only reason I saw it was like a YouTube ad, which is the worst way to advertise movies. But I saw it and I was like, I'm bored tonight. I'll check this out, and just fell in love with it. Where
mhm,
you got Billy Crudup, who his son dies first few minutes of the movie at a school shooting. He spirals out of control, and years later, he's like living on a boat and just kind of like drifting through life. And then he finds these CDs that his son recorded before he died, where he was writing music, and he starts playing this music at the local bar, and it starts inspiring other people. And he ends up getting into a band that plays the songs, and all the while, nobody knows that they're not his actual songs. and it's just a really, really good movie. Great music, really dramatic, good performances. So that's one that is really high up on my like top 15, top 20 that nobody hears about it unless I tell them about it. You know, I think me and William H. Macy are the only two people that know that movie exists.
Yeah, and that's been on the watch list as well for a long time. That Session 9, been meaning to watch that for a long time. And Trick or Treat, that is one that I've struggled to find a way to watch it until they put out the 4K, and then when I got to it, it's sold out. So,
Bummer.
yeah, I might try and see if it's like secondhand availability, but
you can get one on eBay. I think there's a guy that sells Blu-ray copies of it for like less than $20. So,
oh, that's not bad actually.
Yeah, that's the one that I watched it on for years before this 4K came out.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to look that up after this for sure. Cody, what are your thoughts on Point Break?
It might be my favorite Keanu Reeves movie. Honestly, I love that one. That's always been a fun one. Another one that I was very late to the party on. The only reason I watched it was because the Blu-ray came out, and I was in college for the 1 year that I was in college. It was the most depressing year of my life, and I was just so like distraught. Like I don't know what to do. College sucks. I thought this was going to be like for me, and I don't know where I'm going to go in life now. And so I would like even more so than I was a kid. I would turn to movies just to like block everything out. And so Point Break and a number of others came on Blu-ray for the first time. I just bought them just to watch it and fell in love with it instantly. So I was 19 when I watched that for the first time and have loved it ever since.
Yeah, so I can definitely tell you're not a frat boy.
No.
Yeah. Are you going to more conventions this year?
Yeah, I'll be at Mad Monster in North Carolina third week in February. It's the only one that I have for sure, but my plan is to definitely do some this year, just a matter of whether it's going to work out or not.
Gotcha. Okay. I know me and Alex both went to one in, I want to say it was August, called Flashback Weekend, and that was awesome. I think this year they have Robert Englund going there. All of the Terrifier people are going there, so that one's going to be a blast for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Simple Plan rules. So glad more people are finally seeing it. Although it has a fan base, I consider The Guest underrated. I still need to watch that one.
It's a good one.
That's Dan Stevens, right?
Yep.
Gotcha. Eddie's Films and Stuff is here. One of my good friends on here. Well, what is up, dude? Okay, so from here on out, again, I don't really have a whole lot more questions. So if anyone has any questions to throw in the chat for Cody, go right ahead. Fire them away. So yeah, again, it's awesome to have you on here, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Huge pleasure to have you on here.
No problem at all. January is pretty wide open, and then February probably be similar. And then as soon as I start, like right around the time that Mad Monster hits, it'll probably be busy from then on, all the way until the end of the year.
Yeah, I feel that. I know. I mean, this is like slow season for me at work. I work in a movie theater, so slow season over there. And then school just picked up again like a couple weeks ago now, so it's not like terribly busy at all. Actually, I have the day off tomorrow as well because the weather is dog shit over here.
Yeah, we're actually supposed to get snow for the first time since 2020. No, 2018 or 2019 actually.
Oh wow!
That was the first time I saw snow since I moved here in 2004. So it's very rare out here. But we're supposed to get some tomorrow.
You're in Georgia, right?
Yeah. Gotcha. You get a couple of inches out here and they just shut down. They don't know what to do with it until it melts. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, as of right now, I think wind chill's down in like single digits, and I think tomorrow's supposed to be like -20 or something like that. So it's not fun. Yeah. Favorite Jim Carrey movie? It's a good one.
I mean, there's a lot of his that kind of feel like they tie for first, but the one that I usually throw out because it is underrated in my opinion is Cable Guy. I just love Cable Guy. It's very very different for him. Like you still get the Jim Carreyisms, but it's a lot more of a dark comedy, and so it's one that a lot of people sleep on. So it makes me love it even more.
Gotcha. Cody, do you collect any movie posters or not so much?
I used to back when I was single because I had a lot more of a man cave thing going on with every room
Hmm.
in my house. But since hooking up with a female, they don't quite like that as much as us. So no, I haven't collected them so much anymore. I actually just threw a whole bunch of them away not too long ago when I was kind of trying to redo this room. A bunch of them that I've been
Hmm.
holding on to for about 9 or 10 years. But the only ones that I've held on to now are the ones that came with like Shout Factory or like ones that you can't get reprinted anywhere or can't order off of Amazon. But I used to get a bunch of them. I used to have every wall in my house would basically have movie posters on it.
Oh dang.
Hmm.
I mean that is a really cool setup back there as well. I mean a ton of posters back there. That's good shit. Love Cable Guy. He's a great one for sure. Um anyways, so you collect physical media. Is there like
Who gives you
a
that idea?
yeah. So what is your like favorite movie box set, just like set in general in your collection that you own?
Oh man, I don't really have like one. I've got some that I just really like. I mean, I'll throw Trick or Treat out there because that's kind of my
Mhm.
favorite one of this past year, where it's just very cool that a movie like that gets the TLC of a set like that, 3 different designs and all these different special features. Not a massive fan of the franchise, but I love that Shout Factory Friday the 13th box set that came out a number of years ago because it's like a fan's dream. And I just hold on to hope that one day us Nightmare on Elm Street fans will get something even half as cool as that because
Yeah.
we've got the short end of the stick as far as physical media goes on all the franchises. I mean, Critters has a box set for Christ's sake, and we don't. So
Yeah.
those two are really cool. I got a couple of foreign ones that are nice that eventually they've released something in the US, but for a while there, like even movies like Rudderless was you could only find a foreign Blu-ray of it if you wanted to watch it at home. So those are
Mhm.
kind of cool where it felt like this little secret and a couple of ones that have gone out of print like Fright Night and Dutch that again you can't find anywhere that feels like a genuine collector's item. But not when I get the Nightmare on Elm Street set, that'll be an easy answer for me. But other than that,
Mhm.
I'll throw those out there.
I know in terms of Nightmare on Elm Street, I know there's been rumblings for years that they're trying to do some sort of nice box set for one. There was one that seemed like pretty promising, like as of this year that I heard, where they're trying to get like 1 through 7 done, but again, I don't know how trustworthy that is, but
Yeah, I've heard the same rumor. It was something on like a listing site, but we'll see. I
mhm.
wasn't really impressed with the 40th anniversary 4K they released for just the first
Ye-
film. You know, whenever you got
yeah.
weird things like the glove be on the wrong hand, it's just like, can you guys just hire a fan to do these artwork? Like people will do it for free and blow this out of the water. What are you doing?
Hmm. Yeah. Um is there like a video game that you remember playing a lot that just like sparks like a memory in your head?
Yeah, there's quite a few. Like I have most of my favorite games of all time will give me some kind of memory like that. Like my number one is the original Metal Gear Solid,
Hmm.
and that just reminds me of kind of a throwback to way back in the day when PlayStation 1 came out. Pizza Hut and other places used to have these little demo discs that you would get. Like
Hmm.
if you ordered a pizza, they'd give you a free demo disc. And kids my age would just play the demos over and over and over and over again. And it would, Metal Gear Solid was one where it was literally like the first 30 minutes of the game. And it was unlike anything I'd ever played before. And so I just played that demo probably 30 times. And then eventually, my mom, one of the few times that she was around for my birthday, she was just like, "Here's the whole game," because you always play the demo. And I remember just the
Hmm.
feeling of, with the demo, you would walk through a certain door after this shootout, and then it would just say like, Metal Gear Solid coming whenever. And I remember the feeling of like excitement whenever I played the actual game and got past that part and walked through the door. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what's behind door number one? I don't know. So that was a big one. Resident Evil 4, you talked about that was a huge one. That was my first Resident Evil game. And so I just kind of rented that on a whim out of boredom. And then I was like, just
Yeah.
glued to it until I beat it 10,000 times. Um, you got games like, Sonic and Comic Zone, like those old Sega Genesis games that make me think of my childhood, where I'd just be in my little room, my own little world, block out all the BS and just
Yeah.
sit there and play that.
Gotcha. Yeah. Um, I know you're also a huge fan of Last of Us.
Oh
You know,
yeah. Oh yeah.
very, same here as well. Season 2, was that it was announced for April, I want to say, for the
Hmm.
show, I believe. So Last of Us, is there like a certain memory that you have or like a certain theme that resonates with you about that game?
As far as memories, I mean, I think I was 22 or something when that came out. And so I was still living at my parents' house at the time after I came back from college when I played the original release and just loved the game. And then they came out with the remastered version for PS4 when I was actually in my apartment living on my own finally. And I remember my brother, who lives in Texas, had come to visit with us for a while and he stayed with me. And I introduced him to it, and so I was still working at the time. So the way that it would work is like I'd go to bed and he would start playing the game, and then I would wake up to go to work and he would still be playing the game. And so every day I'd get like a little play by play, like, have you got to this part? Yeah, yeah, it was awesome. And he would just keep going. And so that's what I always think of when I think about playing the first one. But theme wise, I mean, yeah, like parenthood and father and
Mm,
daughter, all that stuff, that it resonates pretty hard with me on that one,
gotcha.
especially with how gripping they are with the way that they do it.
Right. Okay. Going back to movies and the themes of parenthood, are there any um movies that you have like a special connection to because you have kids of your own now?
Yeah, I mean, a Goofy movie is certainly one of them, as silly as that might be. You've got, I mean, even it's hard to think of specific examples, but just as like an overarching answer, there's a lot of movies where you experience that as a kid from the kid's perspective, and
Hmm.
then you watch it as an adult. Now you're watching it from the parent's perspective, and so it's always interesting. Like one that's really funny for me to watch now is the Santa Claus with Tim Allen, because I've always
Yeah.
loved that movie. But as a parent, like the little kid annoys the shit out of me because he doesn't listen to anything the entire
Yeah.
movie. So even though I love it, I'm like, "You shut up! I told you." Like, oh, this kid kills me. Like he doesn't listen to
Yeah.
anything anybody says. He just talks about Christmas, rats his dad out, gets his dad thrown into the loony bin.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel that. I feel that for sure. Even like just as like a teenage kid, just
Mhm,
like watching that movie, the kid's not shutting up.
mhm,
And just like you know, like when you're a kid, you let so many like logistical things go, like just like him, uh, basically killing Santa Claus, just like knocking him off
mhm.
the roof. Like that's okay. That's a little interesting.
Mhm.
Thoughts on Richard Linklater's films? He's one of my favorite filmmakers.
Oh, I like his movies. There's not any that I'm like over the moon about. Like I really enjoy School of Rock. I really like Dazed and Confused. I thought Hitman was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
I didn't really get much out of Everybody Wants Some. I didn't get Boyhood at all. Like I thought it was a cool concept, but I didn't enjoy the story. I was like, oh, whatever, this is
Hmm.
boring to me. So he's kind of hit or miss with me, but I like his style at least. He's kind of got like this wholesome kind of vibe to him, the way that he does stories.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Before trilogy?
I've seen the first one.
That's the same with me, honestly.
I bought the
um,
box set with the intention of watching them, and then I watched the first one, and like I liked it enough, but it didn't really do a whole lot for me. So I didn't have that extra motivation to keep watching. But I've heard
yeah,
they're
I
all
think
really good.
um I've seen the first one and then I was gonna do like the whole trilogy, but then they had taken them off the streaming service I was watching them on, so
Mhm.
that was kind of annoying. But first one's good. But yeah, I definitely need to get back on that train. Um okay. If anyone has any more questions, shoot them down below. If not, I think we might just wrap this one up a little short, nice and quick little show.
Okay, sounds good.
Um, is there anything you would like to talk about on here? In particular?
I mean, what are some movies for this year that you're most anticipating? Because that's the video I was just editing before we went
Right.
live. Mhm.
So this year I'm definitely looking forward to 28 Days Later. That looks
Mm,
incredible. Superman. Um, the monkey looks really really fun.
mhm.
um, what
Did you
about
see
you, man?
Wolfman?
Wolfman. Yeah, it was all right. I respected the technical side of it for sure, but
Yeah.
the characters were annoying as shit.
Yeah, that one was a big disappointment for me. I did a
Yeah.
tier list video where I arranged all the 2025 releases that I know about and kind of like gave predictions on what I'm going to rate them just for fun.
Mhm.
And that's one of the first ones I talk about in the video where I put it up and go out and buy it. I'm like, it's going to be awesome. I just know it's going to be great. And now I
Mhm.
watch it after I've seen it. I'm like, ugh, God, you just don't even know what you're in store for.
Yeah. So what movies are you looking forward to this year?
I mean, you named a couple of them. I think that Mission Impossible is going to be great. I'm curious about this movie, The Gorge. I don't know if it's going to
Oh.
be exactly what I'm expecting. It seems
Mhm.
like, anytime I stream and service movie, I always put my guard up. Sinners, if that ends up being a
Oh, yeah.
vampire movie, looks like it's going to be really good. Otherwise, it'll still be interesting for me, but my interest will drop a bit. I'm just a vampire whore. What can I say?
Mhm. I
Um,
know, Salem's Lot that came out last year. I know. We're like one of the two people that ended up liking that movie, it seemed like.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't get the level of hate. Like, I get people being
Mhm.
disappointed by it, but I think people wanted to just decided already that it was garbage because of how long it took to come out, and so, like, the
Yeah.
level of hate I was seeing was ridiculous. I don't have any issues with people not liking it, but it was like, "Come on, it's not that bad."
Mm, yeah. I mean, I love vampires as well,
Mhm,
but yeah, it's just a lot of fun in that aspect for sure.
yeah.
So, any other movies that you were looking forward to though?
Nobody 2 certainly is up there for me. I know that they are Death of a Unicorn looked like a lot of fun. There's a few movies that are maybe gonna come out this year, but they haven't really slated yet, like Saw 11. I'm very curious what's going on
Mhm.
with that one, why it's taken so long, and why it sounds so grim. You've got, the new Scary Movie with the the Wayans brothers. I doubt
Mhm.
that's gonna be this year, but they have it on the calendar for tentative 2025. Some of those. The most of my favorite movies of the year end up being the ones that nobody even knows is coming until they just drop.
Yeah.
Film festival movies or movies in the back half. All the big
Right.
blockbuster ones that we look forward to, those end up being most of the middle of the road, like,
Disappointing ones,
good.
yeah. Yeah. I know. I mean, actually, was it Iron Claw? That
Yeah,
ended up being like my favorite
same.
of 2023, and that just came out of nowhere. So yeah, I agree with you for sure on that. Um, in terms of like horror movies coming out this year, I know there's been a lot of like legacy sequels supposed to come out, or just sequels in general. You got Black Phone 2 supposed to be coming out.
Mhm,
Um, was it the I know what you did last summer sequel
mhm.
sequel reboot sequel whatever. um I know some people are really looking forward to that. I think the first one's fine, but if they take this one in like a different direction, do like a meta thing with it, I think it'd be kind of cool, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't know what
um
to expect from that one. The only thing I would be
mhm.
interested in is the, Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze coming back, but they've already said, not that writing was on the wall, but they've confirmed their parts are not big in that movie at all. So I don't
Mhm.
know if they're just like an opening kill. I don't know if they just show up in the third act. Remember us? I don't know.
Yeah. What direction would you take Chucky season 4 or a new Chucky movie?
It's hard to say, man. They pushed that thing into such weird territory. It feels like the
Mhm.
direction I would want it to go doesn't even make sense to go anymore. Like, I just want back to basics, scary Chucky, simple, none of this weird shit that they've been doing that, some people love. I'm just not one of them. Um, Especially if it's a movie, I feel like the simpler you go, the more successful it is. Otherwise, you're requiring
Yeah.
people to watch all 3 seasons of the show to understand what's going on, and it's not going to work out well. I don't see them getting a season 4. I mean, they obviously the show's already been
Yeah.
canceled, but I don't even with the campaign that they've been doing, I think there's a reason. Um, I just don't know where you go from now. I mean, they've incorporated ghosts into it and other shit now. It's just like, what's left, you know?
Yeah.
Just
Once I heard that was supposed to be happening in season 3, I was just like dropped the show entirely because I wasn't a fan of season 2.
yeah.
First like 3 episodes that I ended up watching of season 3 were like, yeah, this isn't really piquing my interest at all. And I was just like, okay, now you jumped the shark. I'm out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. I mean, like you said, if simplicity shows it's, it's usually the successful route. I mean, we've gotten Prey, Alien Romulus as of recently. If those don't show what you should do for a franchise nowadays, I think, studios should take a bigger note from that for sure. Laren with a pretty random question. Favorite type of donut?
I mean, I love a good jelly donut. I actually really like I think they call it the Homer Simpson donut, like the pink frosting with the sprinkles.
Mhm.
It's very kiddish, but they're good. There's one that me and my wife love from Dunkin' Donuts that you kind of have to know how to order it. It's called the Vanilla Headlight. If you know how to order it, they don't actually label that, but it's a donut filled with cream that has cream on top of it, so it looks like a
Oh,
headlight. And then there's a local donut shop here that I haven't been to in a long time that has a red velvet donut that is awesome,
oh
where
man.
they just they make it everything from scratch and they just put like a big smear of cream cheese on top of it. That's probably my number one if I was going to say, like, good old
Yeah.
fashioned homemade, not the frozen stuff you get it everywhere else.
Mhm. Yeah, I do love me some red velvet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's one little donut like fundraiser shop that usually does shit through my school called Rise and Roll, and it's like um you know yeast donuts with cinnamon and sugar on it, and it's apple pie filling.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that
Sounds good.
is that is so good. Um, what movie do you have the most amount of copies of?
Um, I do have a couple of copies of Trick or Treat, so that would probably be up there because I have the Blu-ray that I was telling you about from eBay. I
Mhm.
have one that my buddy Charles sent me that's a foreign Blu-ray where the movie's called Ragman, and then I bought
Mhm.
2 different copies of the 4K. I have a lot of copies of Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3 just because I've bought box sets and they have different covers and stuff.
Yeah.
So I've probably got 3 copies of each of both of those movies. And um, as far as movies that I've rebought, like special editions and stuff, I've probably bought Terminator 2 a number of times because every time they come out with a new format, they give you the basic one. I go buy it. And I'm like, damn it, there's no director's cut. And then a
And then
couple
when they
years
come out with
later,
the director's cut.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I have shit 3 or 4 copies of T2, I want to say. There's like a um Arnold Schwarzenegger like DVD collection that I have that has that in there, but it's very bare bones. It's like on the same disc as in other movies, so they don't have like any sort of special features, not the director's cut or anything like that. So then I
Hmm.
bought another DVD that was the director's cut, and then I just got a couple of years ago now. There was a steel book that they put out with like a box cover on it that was like lenticular with Total Recall and T2.
Hmm.
That's my go-to release for sure from what I have. Um, but I've been boycotting buying the 4K until they actually put out a decent version of it, which probably won't ever happen, but unfortunately.
Yeah, gotta love it.
Hmm. Um, 12 copies of T2, my most owned film. Crazy that you said that. It's I
Great
guess a
minds.
lot of people's most owned movie. Um, what's your most wanted out of print Blu-ray or 4K you don't have yet?
Um, I'd have to think on that one. I'm usually pretty good about pulling the trigger if I see a movie that I love. Not that I hide it very well, but
Yeah.
there's been some special editions that have been pretty cool that I've missed out on. Can't really think of a specific one at the moment though. Yeah, that I wish I could answer that. I can't think off the top of my head of one. I mean, there's
Mhm.
a number of them that I wish were available just so other people like that I recommend, Fright Night Part 2, Fright Night
Yeah.
1. Dutch was one where I recommend. It was my number 2 Thanksgiving movie, and I was like, sorry guys, like the whole point of this video
there's no way to watch it. Yeah,
that you're not able to. So
yo, I know there's 28 days later, 28 weeks later. Those don't have copies in print, but I have been meaning to get those for the longest time because all I have is like this 2-pack DVD set that's just like full screen, barely can see what the hell's going on a newer edge TV. So yeah, we got my buddy Joel in here. What's up, man? Anyways, if you guys don't have any more questions, I think we will go ahead and wrap things up. So thank you again to Cody for joining on here. And in case, anyone in here isn't familiar with Cody, would you let them know where to find you?
Yep, in the dark web. No, you just go to the search on YouTube and type in my name, Cody Leach. It's actually spelled right there. CODYLEACH. I should be the first like 2,000 results. I think there's me, and then there's some football player somewhere. I think Grok or somebody thinks that I'm Mike Leach's son, which is not accurate. But you should find nothing but me if you type in my name in YouTube. And then Cody Leach YT is my username for mostly everything else.
Gotcha. All right. Laren says, thanks to the two of you. Have a great night, everyone. You too, man. Anyways, thank you guys for joining. And again, thank you to Cody for being an awesome guest. And again, thank you guys for joining. And I will see you guys on the next episode if I ever end up getting to it, because it's been like 6 months since I've done one of these. But anyways, take care, everyone. Have a great night.
See you later.